Hello everyone, this is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of I the Dragon, Cruel and Beautiful Rabbit Hole, Lore and Fray, and the upcoming Jaw of the Dragon. So, the Pretendos seem to have settled on a narrative for the first part of 2023. Right now I'm seeing a bunch of articles claiming that Nintendo is planning on releasing a successor to the Switch, that the second half of 2023 is going to be a dry spell for the console, and the new Switch 2 will be out later this year. They're going to announce it immediately after Tears of the Kingdom launches. Now, this is a whole lot of crap. We've talked a little bit about this before. Like, there are a whole bunch of, like, confirmed games upcoming for the Switch, including stuff like Ys 10 and just there's a lot of games coming out, okay, that I'm really looking forward to on Nintendo's console. But now, for some weird reason, these people have been trying to present this narrative. Oh, I forgot my other piece of evidence. Nintendo is ramping up Switch production this year. We already got like confirmation that they're actually going to release and develop more Switches and produce them this year, which they wouldn't do if they were preparing to announce a new piece of hardware. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, we have there's been a ton of signs that there's no real replacement for the Switch. It doesn't help that, over the past couple of years, we've gotten constant assurances from, like, the gaming establishment that the Switch was about to be replaced, and it was on the way out, that, like, the sales were slowing down, and that Nintendo was anxious to replace it in order to keep up with, like, the real next generation of hardware, the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. And, like, first of all, the Switch is dominating both. I don't know why the gaming media is trying to, like, pretend otherwise. I don't know why, like, third-party developers are, like, developing games for Xbox and PlayStation, because nobody is enthusiastic about these platforms. I have never seen a next generation of hardware just launched to such absolute crickets. Like, even the PS3 wasn't as embarrassing as this. Okay, even the PS3 had, like, some things to get excited about. Like, it was a Blu-ray player. That was a big innovative thing at the time. It was, it had backwards compatibility. It had, like, like, things to be interested in, right? Like, if you were a big fan of the first two PlayStation games, I'm sure you got, first two PlayStation consoles, I'm sure you got, like, some mileage out of the PS3 if you bought one day one. If you buy a PS5 now, you are not getting jack shit. There is nothing available on PS5 that isn't available on, like, superior pieces of hardware, such as, like, a gaming PC. There's nothing really, like, there's no functionality, there's no unique features. I don't even think it has backwards compatibility. I don't think you can buy each and every PlayStation game on the hardware, which makes, like, the constant bitching about, like, Nintendo Switch Online hilarious to me, by the way. But it's so weird how we're in this position where, like, Nintendo is clearly stopping the competition, is clearly, like, winning the console war, and yet all we're getting from the gaming establishment is assurances that, like, Nintendo is on the way out and they're about to replace a Switch and that you should buy one. Like, you should expect to, like, have a dry 2023, which is far from the truth. I'm just loaded on games that I'm looking at right now. This month alone, I have, like, Octopath Traveler 2, like the Kirby remake. I'm also playing Hogwarts Legacy, but that's on releasing on PC. But, like, I'm swamped with games this month. Okay, like, I am just drowning in video games, and this idea that, like, the Switch is dying is just, it has no basis. Like, it really does feel like they're throwing everything at the wall to try and convince people that, like, there's something wrong with the Switch library. And this is, like, typical for them. Like, they did this with the Wii U, they did this with the Wii, the 3DS, like the DS, the Game Boy Advance, the GameCube, the N64. Like, they do this thing where they constantly pretend that there are no games on these platforms. And, like, the go-to place for all the new interesting games are on the PlayStation hardware. It's on, like, the third-party platforms. PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. But more and more, I think, that's becoming less and less true, right? That's becoming more and more obviously not true, right? Because, the big game this year is Tears of the Kingdom. Are we really expecting Nintendo to release Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild 2, on Switch, and then immediately replace it with a new piece of hardware? I don't think so. Like I've always maintained that I expect Switch to be a platform that lasts a full decade. I do not think we will get a Switch 2 until 2027, right? Like I do not think we're going to get a follow-up, a new piece of hardware until like a full decade after launch. And it might just be an incremental upgrade, like the Switch to the like the Game Boy to the Game Boy Color, right? It might be like the Switch Pro that you've been rumor mongering about since like 2017. Like I get, uh, or it might be something completely new, right? Like it might be like something wildly unexpected. Obviously, like the sky's the limit when it comes to like the future of Nintendo hardware, their franchises, their lineup of games. Like there's all sorts of things, directions they could go in. But I think what we really need to focus on right now is that we have to appreciate what we have. We have to appreciate like the value and the quality of the Switch and its hardware. We have to appreciate like everything that's coming out on Switch in the very near future. Octopath Traveler 2, Kirby, Cereza and the Lost Demon in March. Fatal Frame 4 is coming out in April, I think. Like there are all these games that like I've never played before that I'm really looking forward to that I really want to see that are coming out on Switch. Why exactly would I be eagerly awaiting the release of Nintendo's next console when I'm perfectly satisfied with what I have now? I will get excited for Nintendo's next platform when I see it. Okay? I don't want to see YouTubers crying about how they're like tired of their Switch, they're bored of it, and they want to see 4K, 8K visuals on like a Nintendo piece of hardware running at like 120 FPS with big bouncing titties all over the screen. Like this is sex. I'm tired of it. Okay, like I am just completely tired of people like trying to find excuses to be angry at Nintendo. And this is a really good example of that. I think there is no evidence the Switch is being replaced. There's no real hint it's going to happen. There's no real there are no signs. Why exactly is there such a big push to try and make it happen? It is entirely an attempt by the gaming establishment to downplay the success, the long-standing success and appeal of the Switch in order to try and steer people away back to the other platforms. Okay? They don't want you playing on Nintendo hardware. I cannot emphasize this enough. Like more than anything, more than like the SJW stuff, more than pushing for specific IPs or games, more than like anything else, they don't want you to be playing on Nintendo hardware because Nintendo is a very threat to their existence.